Hello chess lovers, I have a very interesting game for you played by Mikhail Tal against Bruno Parma. The game was played in 1961 in Bled. Tal started with e4 and c5 by Parma, Sicilian defense, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and g6. Black is choosing the accelerated dragon. c4, we see the Maroczy bind. White c and e pawns control the d5 square, making it difficult for black to free his position with d5. We see knight f6, knight c3, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, d6, bishop e2, bishop g7, bishop e3, black castles king side, and once the king is protecting the bishop, there can be some discovered attacks. That's why we see queen d2, bishop e6, rook c1. Now white wants to strengthen the pawn on c4, queen a5, and we see b3, rook c8. Well, actually playing at once a6 and preparing b5 is also playable, but we see first rook c8, white castles kingside, and only now we see a6. But now Mikhail Tal is pushing the f pawn. Here we go, b5, and paying no attention to this pawn on b5, Tal is pushing the f pawn further, f5, bishop d7, f takes g6, h takes g6, c5, and bishop e6. Well, actually capturing on c5 is also playable. If e5, then knight g4, counter-attacking the bishop on e3, bishop takes g4, then bishop takes g4, again with equal chances. But instead, after c5 we see bishop e6. Here comes bishop f3. Already there are some threats of e5, both attacking the knight and also the rook on a8. D takes c5, and there it goes, we see e5. Knight g4, bishop takes a8. Surprising, but Mikhail Tal is not the first who is sacrificing the piece in this game. And bishop takes e5. Well, it was better to capture on a8. If knight d5, then queen takes d2. And if knight takes e7 check, then king h7, though black can even play king f8, forcing a perpetual check. You can't capture on d2 because you will lose your knight, that's why you have to give a perpetual check. But instead, after bishop takes a8, we see bishop takes e5. Now the bishop on a8 is hanging, also black is threatening to capture on e3. You can't recapture because of this bishop d4 pin. Bishop d5 and knight takes e3. Well, capturing on h2 won't give black anything, that's why we see knight takes e3. Bishop takes e6 and rook d8. Well, actually playing bishop d4 is stronger. If king h1, then f takes e6. But instead, after bishop takes e6, we see rook d8. Queen f2 and knight f5. Well, this is not the best move. It was better to play rook f8. If bishop takes f7 check, then king g7. Now the knight on c3 is hanging, the rook on f1, there can be some bishop d4 ideas. At some point this bishop can hang on f7. This is a very complex position and white has to be very careful. But instead, after queen f2 we see knight f5, and already white is starting to gain huge advantage. Queen e2, bishop d4 check, king h1, f takes e6, queen takes e6 check, king g7. Now black has a very dangerous threat. Knight g3 check followed by rook h8 check. That's why we see knight e4, both moving away the knight under the fire and also covering the g3 square. But here comes queen c7 with another dangerous threat. Queen takes h2. For example, if you play something like rook c2, just a random move, then queen takes h2 check followed by rook h8 checkmate. But of course this is a cheap trap for Mikhail Tal, and he calm-heartedly played knight g5. In the end of the day already he can cover his king by playing knight h3, rook f8, and now you can pause the video and try to find Mikhail Tal's next move. Actually he made a move and Parma resigned. Ready? In this position, Mikhail Tal played queen takes f5, just a mind-blowing move. And as I have already mentioned, Bruno Parma resigned. If rook takes f5, then knight e6 check, forking the king and the queen. And in the end of the day, white is just a rook up, and this is an easy win. If you enjoyed this deadly fork, don't forget to give the thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. More games are coming. Good luck.